Be sure to subscribe for your chance to win a custom leather playmat when we hit 2,500 subscribers. Welcome to Fast Effect. We are jumping right in here with a astrolabe off of Snow-Covered Island. And we will figure out who's on what. Looks like Matt's going to be on a World Gorger Dragon build. Dragon kind of morphing into a control shell in recent years. In recent months, I suppose. Now using that ETB off of Arkham's Astrolabe to draw infinite cards. Or, you know, the entire deck. You definitely don't want to lose to your own ETBs, but Dragon has a lot of control over that. For those unfamiliar with the combo, World Gorger Dragon is a unusually worded card. It is a 7/7 flying trampler, though that rarely comes into play. Casting cost of 3 and 3 red. We have a Dreadhorde Arcanist now for Josh, which threatens to flashback this Ponder, start to pull ahead. Matt's going to be able to use basic lands to keep his mana base free from any type of pesky interaction, and an Icefang Coatl being flashed in during the end step. I'm guessing that means Matt did not have the other land, though. We'll see. He's actually got Sylvan Library, so totally possible he's just jamming as many good things as he can. Icefang as a surprise blocker can be pretty potent. Thresholds are going to really want to ride this Dreadhorde Arcanist out. And we've got cameras down for a moment. Oh good, they're back in the same places. And a Brainstorm for Josh. Force of Negation hitting that Sylvan Library. It is now in exile. So World Gorger Dragon, when it enters the battlefield, exiles all your other permanents. And when he leaves the battlefield, you return all permanents exiled with World Gorger Dragon to the battlefield. With an Animate Dead enchantment, either Animate, Dance of the Dead, or Necromancy, you actually get an infinite loop there, because the Animate, when it is no longer on the World Gorger will die, and then everything will come back, allowing you to tap all your permanents and get all of your ETBs every cycle, generating a bunch of mana and drawing a bunch of cards. Generally, what you want to do versus World Gorger is to kill the World Gorger in response to the exile trigger, which is something that Canadian Threshold not particularly well equipped to do. So cards like Sword to Plowshares and Blue Elemental Blast can be very strong versus the Dragon combo, as when you animate the World Gorger, then you put that trigger on the stack to exile all of your permanents. If they kill it in response, then the leaves the battlefield trigger happens, returning all of the permanents, but none have been removed, so nothing happens there. And then the other ability resolves, exiling all of your permanents, effectively blowing you out and most likely losing the game. Dreadhorde Arcanist is just continuing to chip away, and now we've got an Abrupt Decay, and not too much can be said about that. Abrupt Decay also very good versus World Gorger Dragon, though Threshold won't have access to it. Actually blowing up the Animate can be pretty brutal. We've got a Daze forcing through this Oko. That is maybe the sequence of the game there. So Oko being played, World Gorger Dragon attempting to force a Willet, and then getting stuffed by that Daze. Now Threshold has a very legitimate threat on board. An Abrupt Decay used to clear the Dreadhorde, but Oko may end up generating even more of an advantage and more of a actual clock as well, as it can just create a stream of 3/3 elk. Now it's unlikely to come to this, but it is worth noting that currently Matt has no black mana on board. Hooting Mandrills, the 4/4 Trampler, and Matt actually going to be scooping it up there in the face of a really fast clock. I have seen Oko wreak havoc with mana bases, hitting opposing Astrolabes or Aether Vials at the right time, though it can often backfire. I mean, a 3/3 is a legitimate bonus when you lose something like an Aether Vial in your creature deck. I mean, there are times where you're totally fine. Plenty of games where you were reliant on that artifact to, either smooth mana or, accelerate your game plan, but, you're going to be making your land drops anyways, kind of curving out, then sometimes that 3/3 kind of fits the bill just fine. Probably more often with goblins than other decks that run Aether Vial. Certainly, like, Cephalid Breakfast is not going to be happy to have anything turned into an elk. Death and Taxes, not as hype. But Oko answers a lot of stuff. I mean, he's a really legitimate answer. Canadian Threshold or Rug Delver is a top-tier deck that has actual answers to things now, thanks to Oko. And it's a really interesting kind of place in the meta. Historically, Rug Delver would struggle with certain types of permanents. A Chalice at 1 could be really tricky. Opposing equipment, something like a Batterskull, could be a bit of a mess game 1. Game 2, you can have answers. I mean, it's 3 very good colors. You can have things like Ancient Grudge, Bounce Spells, no shortage of sideboard answers, but to have main deck outs versus just about anything, all while being an incredibly good card, it's really doing something. A lot of people feel like it's just clearly the best deck. I am not quite there. I certainly like my chances playing against Rug Delver when I'm on something like, say, Eurekatel. A lot of the time their early lines just don't reap any type of reward. They're tapping out on turn 2 for a Dreadhorde, and you just kill them when they're tapped out. It's pretty brutal. But they can put up a great fight. They do have Force of Will, Force of Negation. Daze can be a factor as well. Astrolabe cycling here for Matt, setting up some smooth mana. And we've got that turn 1 Delver. And if Josh can hold on here, he's going to be favored thanks to this early clock, though it doesn't flip. Looks like a little bit of hesitation in tapping this volcanic island. He goes for a Ponder. And Delver does have a tough time actually punishing that World Gorger element. Blue Elemental Blast could be big. I've actually seen people have it in their sideboard and not bring it in this matchup. It is only good when they're going for the combo, but I mean, if they never go for the combo, you're probably fine. We've got a Preordain. Almost looking at 3 cards there. I've got to make a playmat like that. Those maps just look awesome. I will definitely have to make something leather with that type of engraving. We'll see. I mean, maybe I'll do the Tolkien Estate. See if they'll make contact. It's like bands that cover their idol songs just to hope to get a cease and desist from their idol. We've got a Daze, 1 being paid. Oh, and in response to the fetch, we've got a Veil of Summer. Oh, did that not go? Ooh, gross. So it looks like Matt actually throwing out a Veil of Summer in response to the first Daze, and Josh able to resolve a fetch in response and Daze again. That is rough. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it has to sequence that way. That is pretty brutal. An Oko of his own, and now a Veil of Summer prior to the Force of Will to stop the Oko. Drawing a card, making his force uncounterable, still facing down a 3 damage per turn clock, but man, does he have a huge mana base here. Just continuing to make land drops. Feels pretty bad that those dazes were relevant before. And at this point, maybe time to stop making those land drops. Unless you're somehow thinking you're going to end up hard casting a World Gorger, and that's going to do it. As the final points of life expire, Josh able to get there with that turn 1 Delver. Plays out that way so often. That is a big strength of the deck, the ability to get down that turn 1 Delver and just ride it out. Make sure that your opponent doesn't do anything that ruins your plan. And Canadian Threshold or Rug Delver taking down Dragon and, making it uneventful. That's kind of what Threshold's looking to do. Doesn't really want anything too crazy happening. Just 3 damage at a time. And Submerge is actually pretty spicy versus the Dragon as well. That might be one of the better responses that you can have to animating World Gorger. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.